What's up, guys? Good evening, I think, for some of you, and good morning for others. We're just gonna wait for people to trickle in and get started.
Right, do you want to ready to kick it off? So,
Oh yeah, I was waiting for Berkeley time. I just realized
oh,
this is
yeah.
Berkeley.
Well, so one thing we have at UC Berkeley is we have something called Berkeley time, where all of the classes start 10 minutes after the hour. And so I think UCLA is slightly different, where all classes end 10 minutes earlier, but it ends up creating a lot of confusion when we have meetings that are outside of Berkeley because unfortunately we show up 10 minutes late sometimes, which is not ideal, but we're getting better now.
Yeah, UCLA is different. UCLA, if a class begins at 1 o'clock, it ends at 1:50. So for the last 10 minutes of every hour, the campus is really busy. And then at the beginning of the hour, it turns into a ghost town.
Right, I remember that I visited my brother who's there, and I sat in on a few classes, and so they have what we like to think of as reverse Berkeley time, but that's another great way of doing it too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Congratulations, we're almost at the halfway point. So I've almost made it through half of the course, which is very exciting. I'll hand it over to Mo today. We'll be talking about some more industry projects and tools, and then we'll have some live demos for you as well.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Inspired by last lecture, which David said you guys found very valuable, a little bit more freeform and whatnot. I'm gonna go ahead and share a screen and yeah, basically just walk you through a few of the projects in the Web3 landscape, including and David, you can let me know right now if you guys have already talked about some of them, but I'm planning to talk about mainly projects that enable you to invest in royalty rights like Royal.io, multi-edition music NFT projects such as like Sound.xyz, and then a few of the one-of-one edition music NFT marketplaces. And then we can dive deep into some on-chain record labels that exist today, and some really weird projects, as well as a new like project in the Web3 space that Spotify is actually testing.
No, that sounds great. That's a really wide range of projects. So that'd be good. That'd be fantastic.
Cool. Yeah. And once we're done kind of walking through those and talking about those, we'll have a Q&A. Cool. Let's do it. So let me just share screen. Cool. So to start out with, this is what you see here is an article by Koopa Troopa. Koopa Troopa, his real name is, let's see what his real name is. So I'm pretty sure it's Cooper or something, but I really don't want to mess it up. Oh. All right. We're not going to know his real name for the time being. But he's basically a very big investor in Web3. He's invested in pretty much like all the major Web3 music projects, as well as started his own on-chain label, which is basically run as a DAO or decentralized asset organization, which we'll get to what that is and the basics of it a little bit later in this lecture. But yeah, So let's just dive into what we were talking about kind of yesterday, which is what a music NFT really is. As we know, there's this whole ethos of it being the early stages of an audio movement. This is driven by digital scarcity for the first time, right? Before this, we weren't able to have digitally scarce assets or items. And yeah, pretty much offering somewhat of a better fan experience or a better way for fans to support artists and then access. So yeah, let's dive in. So a music NFT, like an NFT, is a fixed quantity tokenized file of some sort. Like we were showing in last lecture, what an NFT really is basically a smart contract that has a link to some sort of file in a decentralized storage solution, or even sometimes like a centralized server. And this file is, as you see, it's stored in this token URI thing. And this token URI resolves to a document that shows some of the information as well as a link to the image. This is really important because if you have an NFT where the link to your image is on a centralized database, and that database is no longer maintained, upkept, supported, whatever, maybe the creator doesn't want to pay for it anymore, then whoever is holding it, it loses some of its properties of permanency because whoever is holding it loses access to the actual image or file. Cool. Yeah. Basically, in terms of the history of this space, most of the space was actually started in 2021 in around August. That's also when I started music.xyz and started exploring this space coincidentally. Most musicians that were exploring NFTs were on this website called Nifty Gateway. So Nifty Gateway looks like this. And what they try to do is they're aiming to be one of the most like accessible NFT marketplaces. And so they have some features like credit card checkout, fiat checkout, that type of stuff, as well as aim to make the experience like super simple and easy for users by allowing them to sign in with an email and password or connect their wallet, kind of supporting both the array of users, the super experienced Web3 enthusiast, as well as like someone who doesn't know anything about Web3 that wants a wallet created for them and whatnot. So that's kind of where people started experimenting, and then they kind of realized that like, hey, maybe like projects like OpenSea, where you have this like insane amount of content that has all these different media types, as well as another like open NFT marketplace like Rarible, where you also have just a crap ton of content being uploaded every single day. So many 10,000 profile picture projects being kind of minted every day and all that type of stuff. It may be not the best way for people to discover new music, or for musicians to have kind of like a one-stop shop for their like music NFT, music Web3 needs. And so because of this, you kind of have a few projects start to come up currently. And this is like the first question anyone will ask you about a music NFT is, oh, okay, so if I own the NFT, I own the song. That's not true. So pretty much music NFTs right now do not come with any inherent ownership rights. They contain no claim on the masters, no royalty rights, no publishing, no licensing. All they represent is a ownership of this digital item, or really in the bare bones ownership of this contract. Not even of the contract, sorry. Basically your wallet address in the like owner of like a contract that points to a URL of some media. That's really all they are right now. So in the future, and I just realized, let's see if I can get away with moving this tab I'm sharing to another screen? I can. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so basically, I lost my train of thought a little bit, but yeah, they contain no claim on the masters. In the future, they will. I'll explain this problem of why we currently can't really support claiming masters or royalty rights, and we'll talk about Royal.io and what they're doing and what the inherent problems that they're facing is, and how they're planning to solve them. So yeah, there are a few reasons why a collector might collect music NFTs. Pretty much music NFTs can be used as some form of like digital merch, as well as some form or way of just like physical art, right? And art like the Mona Lisa, or even, with super rare, like one of one digital art. What we can really use NFTs as a technology for is basically allowing this like, auction style, or sorry, allowing the collectability of these art pieces, right? We've never had this for recorded music as a medium. And that's why in Wednesday's lecture, we were talking about the history of mediums in music. Because the entire point here is this might be a new digital medium shift in music. I think there are a ton of issues that need to be worked out to make it a viable medium for music. I also don't think that it could be argued that it's not even a medium because you're still storing music in the same digital format, which is like an MP3 and whatnot, but storing the link to it. So yeah, cool. Another reason to collect music NFTs is basically patronage, and patronage basically that is permanent. So what is patronage? Well, patronage is the support given by Patreon. So I don't know if you guys know patreon.com, but that's like where they get their main name. And what it really is just like proving that you were early on something, right? So I don't know if like basically this probably has happened to you guys, but you find some artist, right, with some AI discovery feature or something else, and you're basically like, yo Nate, like you're listening to this guy, like you're listening to Surfaces or whatever, and actually like I was like the one of their first fans. I was like there when they had like 10 followers or whatever. And right now there's really no way to prove that you were there early. And so basically one of the ways people collect music NFTs is to be like, hey, this artist is super small. I want in my digital life on this like permanent digital record, which is the blockchain, I want to prove that I was here first, right? Cool. And with that also being early comes like the like aspects of speculation as well, right? Just like any collectible, part of the fun of it and part of the reason why some people who don't even care about music will collect collectibles is purely on speculation, where it's like, hey, I'm going to be early on this collectible. When this artist grows, hopefully demand for a collectible will go up, and then I can turn a little bit of profit. Now, usually this is kind of like, it's not bad for the artist, but usually they don't get to share in the upside of this speculation in this like collectibles market. However, in this in the Web3 space, because royalties are enforced on chain with the EIP 2981 standard, basically artists can set their own royalty percentage, and they will share in the royalties and upside perpetually as long as the network is up.
And just to pitch in really quick, so something Mo mentioned was the EIP standards. So the way Ethereum works, or actually most blockchains, is they have a mechanism for making improvements as time goes on. And so, as you know, within within like blockchains, I mentioned how it's very difficult or it's much more difficult for changes to be made, because rather than having one party or one leader decide on any improvements, you need agreement across the network. So EIP stands for Ethereum Improvement Protocols, and these are proposals that are sent out via what we call blockchain governance. And what these do is these essentially send out a temperature check, or they get a gauge based on the community about certain revisions or changes that the network might want to make. And if enough people vote on them and actually stake their tokens, deposit them, and vote on a certain proposal, then they'll pass and they will make different. And then these updates will be pushed or created or implemented throughout the network.
Cool. Yeah, and just another just something to say about that. So not every marketplace follows the 2981 standard, and not every NFT contract that's minted follows the 2981 standard. So one of the problems like with OpenSea's inception is they basically had this insane amount of demand throughout like 20 to like 2021 and maybe some of 22, or maybe not, basically just through the bull market, peaking in like $1 billion plus a month in volume, trading volume for NFTs. So the issue was that OpenSea actually didn't support the 2981 standard. And so although OpenSea claimed to basically be able to pay creators their royalties, we faced the first issue that really kind of imprinted why you would want to use a purely decentralized marketplace instead of something that maybe may do transactions like off-chain or handle some of these things off-chain. So OpenSea actually ended up like not paying out royalties to creators. And yeah, basically, as you see here, there will be a few articles, but at the end of it, they were just like, hey, like basically we can't pay out the royalties just because like this isn't the way we were programmed to conduct business. And also like there's basically, because we didn't enforce them in the first place, like the money isn't there, right? And it, yeah, so cool. That's like the difference also between OpenSea and you know, something like Zora or other marketplace protocols. It's like Zora is a marketplace protocol that's actually decentralized, that runs itself in the same ethos of blockchain and as a network, right? But yeah, it's also like important to keep in mind, again, even if you have a decentralized marketplace, if your actual NFT contract that you're minting, it does not support the 2981 standard, it will be pretty difficult to enforce royalties on chain. And the other thing is that there is this thing called the like on-chain royalty index. It's on Manifest. Oh, sorry, royalty registry is what the word I'm looking for. Cool. Let's go look at it. But yeah, as you can see here, OpenSea is not participating in this, but this is a royalty registry that where basically you can paste in a token address, and they're storing the royalty info on chain. And this is like so important. It's also open source, so anybody can go in, look at the contracts. There's no like hidden IP or anything like that. And yeah, anyone can also hit their contract to find out the royalty information. And now this is kind of like the standard of storing your royalty info. So instead of storing it on your own server, like on chain, off chain, we're now have a way to store it on chain. Cool. So yeah, would love to answer any questions anyone has on music NFTs after we're done with kind of like the lecture. So yeah, there's basically a whole that Koopa is also talking about this whole way of like valuing music NFTs. We're not going to talk about that because a lot of these thoughts are like purely speculative and kind of just like random opinions. What we are going to talk about is the music NFT landscape and what projects kind of currently exist today that we should know about. So first things first, most simple projects are projects where artists can mint a one of one limited edition version of their work. So a one-on-one really means that like, hey, I have this like piece of art, and basically I want this to kind of like be the original copy like on chain. It's basically, imagine if you painted, you were a artist or painter, and you painted your original piece of art on like a canvas, and you framed it, and you were like went to like Sotheby's and you're like, here's my original piece of art, like this is the authentic one, this is the copy I want everyone to know. Just because there's like a one of one NFT or a one of one piece of art does not mean that you can't, theoretically, if you decide it was good for your business or your brand, whatever, as an artist, you can now also go and be like, all right, this was the one-on-one authentic, but I also want to like make replicas. So like maybe it's like, oh, a digital print of that physical artwork, right? And basically sell them for people to put on their walls and everything. Now, does that devalue the one of one? Basically, it could create market dynamics where that's true. However, in terms of the one-on-one being a one-on-one, like that original piece of art is still the original piece of art. It still has value because someone wants the basically like the canvas which you literally touched with your like paint strokes, right? And so this is kind of a same thing here in music NFT space, where it's like, or NFT space in general, where you have a one-on-one copy of a file, and then you also have like the additions. So some of the projects that are doing one-on-one, and just to disclose, Catalog was a project where I was a core engineer very recently. And what Catalog does is they do one-on-one music NFTs. There are other projects that do this. There's Arpeggi, which Arpeggi focuses on also music creation, I believe. So yeah, basically what they're trying to do is say, hey, like we want to literally recreate a digital audio workstation or a DAW to basically record contributions like you would on, for example, like GitHub, right? So it's like, hey, like music collaboration, there's been a lot of this like debate on like, hey, well, like it's like a common phrase is like, change a word, get a third, right? You're sitting in the room where the lyrics were being written, or where the song was being written or produced, and you're like, hey, like change the to it might flow better. And then like when the rights come out, or like people are deciding on a contract, you're like, well, you know, I changed the word, I should get a third of like the royalty rights. So that's kind of like a common adage in the music industry. And what Arpeggio Labs trying to do is basically be like, hey, you know, like we can record your contributions straight up when you're making this song like on this DAO. And yeah, basically, you know, take all the contributions and with some algorithm decide, hey, like this is kind of like how much technical contributions you had. And yeah, it's similar to what, you know, a version management or version control system in for software development really does. However, there's all our arguments of like, hey, is this fair? Is it not? Usually you have one engineer that's actually sitting on the DAO. It doesn't mean they own the entire song, blah, 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 right? Cool. So yeah, other projects where you can do one-on-ones is Zora. Literally any NFT marketplace or minting site that allows you to mint and upload, or helps you through the process of minting and uploading an NFT. So what's different about some of these projects? What is like the main value prop of like Catalog, or yeah, well, the main value prop is curation. So basically, catalog is not an open marketplace, which means that if you as an artist or hobbyist, whatever, like come on there and you're like, hey, I want to mint a music NFT. Catalog, which I'll go to the website right now. So let's go ahead. We're gonna connect our wallet. So it's just some random account. Okay, cool. So basically, catalog, this is what they look like. And if you wanted to upload a song right now, you basically have no button to do that, right? No way to do it. And the reason is because you have to fill out a artist application where their curation team will go ahead and basically like look through who you are as an artist, how involved you are with the Web3 space, as well as obviously listen to your music. And with that in mind, they'll decide if you're good enough to be on catalog, basically. So that's what curation really is. And obviously this existed in the music industry for centuries. Like that's what DJs really used to do. The reason this is kind of a value prop in this space is because if you go to OpenSea right now and we search for music NFTs, we won't find very we would find a lot of music NFTs, but not a lot of good music NFTs. And that's a problem, right? That's a horrible user experience. And you could say the same about Spotify as well. Like Spotify and other, music playback places, a lot of them, what they do is really curate the music and basically use AI to give you the music you're most likely to like. Cool. Additions are literally basically instead of 101 NFTs, it's like X out of 25 or like X out of 5,000. So you just have multiple editions of NFTs, which I pretty much explained. Another curated marketplace is Sound.xyz. So Sound.xyz lets artists mint editions, and what they basically do is on your drop, as you see here on the front page, they'll have a little page and it'll say like, okay, this song is dropping in like 2 hours and 29 minutes. And what they allow you to do is host a launch party on that first day that you drop the NFT or even the song, if those happen to coincide. So as we know, like today, we have a launch party at 10 a.m., 11:30, 12, etc. for a bunch of different artists. If we go and look at some of these, you can see that Snoop Dogg here has minted 10,498 editions of this XYZ song.
2023. You know me.
Cool.
Here
And
we go.
basically, just like SoundCloud, when you collect an NFT here in the launch party, what you get access to is commenting at a time in the song. And with your wallet
The
address.
disc is
I just don't want to keep playing. But as you see here, some people have collected 145, some people collect 100, blah, blah, blah. And each one of them gets to have a comment on that song. When you trade that NFT, your comment disappears, and whoever owns the whoever the new owner is will have access to comment. So that's really what Sound does. As you can see, like the theme here is like new digital experiences around music, and that make collecting music fun. So yeah, other edition marketplaces are going to be Nifty Gateway. Nifty Gateway is and Sound are technically well, I take back. So like Nifty Gateway does, like OpenSea, do a lot of things off chain. However, obviously, like OpenSea too, and a lot of these projects, they're progressively becoming more and more decentralized. And so with OpenSea, they have a new protocol called Seaport Protocol, which I won't get into because it's irrelevant for this lecture, but it aims to decouple dependencies that OpenSea may have, and do a lot more of the transactions and auctions and not auctions, just some of the trading on chain to mitigate some problems. There was also Mint Songs. Mint Songs was one of the first like open marketplaces where you can mint a one-on-one music NFT, or you can mint an edition. It was just an open marketplace focused on music purely. And it did not, it basically ended up failing and dying. So it doesn't exist today. Cool. One of is another editions marketplace. We can go ahead and look at what the website looks like. So yeah, they're basically all doing the same thing, right? It's just a marketplace that's focused on music. Specifically with one of, they've since to stay alive, haven't really focused purely on music anymore, but are focusing on much more than that. Cool. So the last type of project, or it's actually not the last type, funny enough. One of the most interesting project types, in my opinion, is going to be projects that allow creators to share and basically allow investment in their royalty rights. Where I'm trying to find it on this chart. It's right here. So you can see it's a kind of smaller subsection because it's a very hard problem to solve. And we see that Royal.io, Decent.xyz, and Opolis are trying to kind of tackle this in the space. So yeah, let's just dive straight into this. Cool. All right, so pretty much Royal.io and these other places, the whole concept is built out. Hey, when you buy this music NFT, you share in a portion of the rights of the streaming royalties of a song, which means, let's say Drake came out with a song tomorrow and said, hey, here's an NFT. If you buy this, you get half of the streaming rights of the NFT. And then basically you buy it, you obtain half of the streaming rights. A year down the road, you're basically collecting like the streaming royalties perpetually in the condition they own token of Drake's streaming royalties, right? So what this really is doing is basically democratizing access to investing in music. Just like we talked about, we have like these big three record labels, and I'll show you guys a chart right now. It's like, let's see, Sony Records, record label chart. So a lot of, this is not what I was looking for. Basically all the big three also own a ton of like labels under them. So like Sony Records, I don't know how to search this. So okay, yeah. So anyways, Sony Records owns Columbia Records, right? It's just a subsidiary of their like bigger business. And not only do they own Columbia Records, but they also own like basically a ton of independent record companies as well, and a lot of other record labels, right? Same thing with Warner Music, and same thing with Universal. So when you look at the top-down chart, they own a lot of the world's music, majority of it, and a lot of the record labels, right? And basically, if you wanted to invest in music today, unless if you're investing in an artist, you might be able to get away with kind of working with them and their manager and their team and working out like a contract where you can invest in the music. But really, if you wanted to invest in a lot of music that exists today, you would have to work with these organizations, and the organizations would pretty much, if you only had, maybe like $5,000 to $25,000, would literally just tell you, hey, go away. We don't care. Like, we don't care about you investing in this song, right? And so you really have to have a very strong network in the music industry to be able to, you know, get in on a lot of these songs. So what the potential of these projects is if we basically opened up like a public stock market for music, you can now see that, hey, maybe a lot of these people that do have 5 to 25 grand or some amount of money, smaller amount of money than these bigger organizations, are allowed to, you know, invest in music to not only support the artist, but also as, you know, a real investment, one and what we call an alternative asset class, which has nothing to do with basically market conditions and everything like that. This could be a very big opportunity, and it could bring a lot of money into the music industry, support a wide array of artists and creators, and basically create this like win-win situation where, win-win-win situation where you have the artist having access to funds that they didn't have before by basically selling their future royalties. But then you also have the fan now sort of being more invested because they're literally an owner of whatever music. And the last win is like, oh shoot, because I own this song, now this artist is gonna get like basically this like free organic marketing stream of a bunch of these like owners in their music going out and shilling their music, because the better their music does, the better their fans do, right? And so it all kind of like ties in to, yeah, potentially definitely creating an industry with more money, but also potentially creating a lot of problems where artists have to actually manage their fans as investors. That was sort of a long-winded explanation. But yeah, okay, cool. So how does Royal work? So how do these people do this, right? Because you kind of have this like off-chain asset class, which is music royalties, and you're trying to like tie in this like on-chain token. So how do you really bridge the gap between the two? Well, the way it's done with Royal really is sort of legally. So over here, you can see that this NFT contract, what it points to, like I was talking about before, is like NFT contracts just point to this metadata that has a link to whatever media you want to put. Well, this one points to this purchase agreement, right? This digital purchase agreement. And what it says is that, hey, whoever owns the song token on Royal, or any marketplace, whatever, is the owner of like these like streaming royalties. Cool. So now that can be enforced by the government. Some of the problems here are, let's scroll down. Let's see, where is it? Payment. Okay. Okay, so what I was basically, I don't know if this is on the contract anymore or right now, but one of the problems with Royal's inception was they had for SEC to be for SEC regulatory reasons, they had to have a thing where it's like, and I think they probably still do, right? Yeah, I mean, it's probably somewhere on this contract, right? Because the rules didn't change. It's like you can't just pay these people out instantly, right? Because that would make it, and it sort of is, like purely a security, right? And even if it was, you would have to wait, you know, like a year before being able to pay people out. And so the other problem is that anytime you bridge off-chain and on-chain assets, you kind of run into this just plethora of like weird scenarios that can happen, right? So I really like a good example of this is projects that are trying to bridge physical items on chain, right? So like physical pieces of art, physical collectibles, whatever, with digital collectibles. Well, the problem is digital collectibles are very easy to trade all across the world, right? Whereas the actual physical item they are tied to is very hard to basically, and takes a ton of time to like ship across the world and everything. Also, there is no way, right? You can really guarantee that if digital ownership transfers, that physical ownership will transfer as well, right? At least trustlessly. And so basically it creates this like host of like so many problems. You can kind of use this as an analogy to trying to bridge off-chain assets to on-chain assets. You run into the same host of issues, right? And so basically with Royal, they had an article on this contract when it came out that was like, and I don't know if it's still on there, but for benefit of time, I'm not gonna check, basically says, hey, we as Royal, right, are not responsible for like maintaining or like hosting our website, right? And then there was another article that says, well, actually, Royal.io are the only people that can pay you legally, like your royalties. And so it created this situation where it was like Royal had a lot of leverage and centralized control over like these investors, like I guess like health or livelihood, or these investments livelihood, right? Because the investments will not be worth anything because your dividends will not be paid out unless Royal exists. And so if Royal ran into any legal trouble and you own this decentralized asset that was supposed to be permissionless, trustless, whatever, right? You're not going to get paid. And so that's kind of like the main problem we run into when we bridge these off-chain assets on-chain. And another really cool project that's doing this in a little bit of a different way in terms of royalty investment is Decent.xyz. So, and they've since kind of like pivoted to trying to design the best tools for artists, but let's just explore if they have any royalty releases on their site. So let's just check these top ones here, see what's going on. Yeah, so this one is a creator royalty. Actually, no, it's not. This says 0%. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Also 0%. Okay, well, like I said, they've kind of pivoted to supporting a lot of multiple different types of NFTs for the reasons I mentioned probably. But what they used to do is to bridge these off-chain like royalties on-chain, they had like the artist basically put up collateral in Ethereum or the token of their choice, and like this collateral would then be used in a mix of like collecting data from Spotify for streaming, and that collateral that is matching some like history of time for the royalties will be paid out to people in a permissionless, trustless like way, right? And so the way they bridged the gap was like, all right, instead of like waiting for the fiat to come in our business bank account and then basically making a transaction where you convert it to crypto and then using the crypto to now pay out whoever owns the royalty rights in proportion to royalties, like screw all that. We'll just have the artist put up some sum of money, right? And then whoever invests in their royalties will pay them out with that like crypto pool. So the issue with that is like most artists are looking to crowdfund because they don't have money, right? And so it's like, how are you supposed to put collateral for your next 6 months of like royalties, right? When the entire point here is like you're trying to basically get an advance for your royalties, right? And so that's why I imagine it probably didn't work out as well. Because a lot of the people who actually need to use these platforms are going to be like independent artists, smaller artists that don't have access to industry, that type of thing. And so like this problem like of investing in royalty rights has not been solved and still exists today. There's another major project, Opolis, which I won't get into for the sake of time. But yeah, it's a very interesting problem. And if you guys are curious about it, I totally recommend like diving deep. And I can answer any questions you have at the end as well. We do have a lot of time left. And yeah, okay. Next is music videos. So this is relevant. And you will see that the guest speaker that we have coming in from Kino.xyz, they are basically leveraging NFTs and crypto in general to improve the landscape for not music, but film, right? Which is another industry that's been, highly, that's another industry is pretty messed up due to like centralization and these like central authorities having too much leverage, too much control, too much like basically monopolizing the industry. Okay, so they make you sign a manifesto. Let's just do that real quick. Just wanted to show you guys this. So if anyone here is like familiar with like honestly basically YouTube or anywhere where music videos are hosted, what's going on here? Sign. Oh, wants my email. Ugh. All right, guys. Looks like they've actually gated their website via token and waitlist. So we're not good enough to access it anymore. But basically what they did was they allowed you to own a music video. So it was like one-of-ones of music videos instead of one-on-ones of like music NFTs. Great. Cool. Those are the main types of projects. A project type that I'm incredibly bearish on is streaming protocols. So these are projects that are trying to be like, hey, like there's nothing wrong with streaming. It's just we need to actually we basically need to pay most of the like streaming rights, or sorry, most of the streaming royalties to the artist instead of like 85% of the labels, which is a great sentiment and a very good intention. However, one of the most popular projects, Audius, which is actually could be on paper the biggest Web3 music project that exists, right? What they do is they're basically a Spotify, like a Web3 version of Spotify, right? And what they try to do is they've created this protocol and network that pays audio tokens to artists based on the amount of streams they receive. The issue is they've been around for 5 to 6 years, and basically after their ICO or initial coin offering, which is basically to just visualize it, looks like this. So that's basically when you put your coin up and people can actually like invest in it, right? After this initial coin offering, they raised like a bunch of money, and none of the money, not from their raise, none of the money on our platform got paid for streaming royalties for artists. Like it was even worse than Spotify, like that, ironically, where it was like artists put up their music and basically no one gets paid, and none of the promises of like, hey, you get to decide your streaming rate, and people who are connected to this website will pay microtransactions to you, and we'll split that up amongst like your listeners and your listeners only, and we won't take a fee. None of that actually happened, right? But what did actually happen was a bunch of Audius's investors are like actual artists. So it was like Blau, deadmau5, like these big EDM DJ artists that happen to be like very involved in the space. I believe even like Chainsmokers, right? But a lot of these artists ended up putting some of their like tracks up on Audius, right? And so if you basically let's try to find them actually. Like if you go to trending playlists, let's see what's going on. Let's see if they're still up here. So yeah, basically when you went to trending playlists, a lot of the songs that were trending were just the investors, right? And that's fine. But the issue was they were like, hey, actually the first payment we're going to support is like for like the top artists on the, sorry, for the top 5 playlists, the top 5 artists, and like the top 5 songs each week for a straight up like year or so. The top songs were just investors. And so it just was like a loophole where it was like, hey, we're basically just paying back our investors, right? And none of the other artists in the platform got paid, which is even worse than Spotify, because Spotify manages, although it's not a lot of money people are getting paid, to actually pay out like everyone who gets streams. And so it's very hard to like do this, to create an on-chain streaming protocol. And the reason is because it deals with like microtransactions, which is basically trying to make very, very small transactions, like cents on a dollar, on chain. And anytime you change the state of blockchain, you are abided by the current gas fees based on the network demand, right? And so it's like you have to create some sort of aggregation solution to pay out these royalties with microtransactions. But at the same time, it's a streaming protocol, right? And so you need to stream this like insane amount of data, insane amount of like media. And that's very hard to do in a decentralized fashion, especially on like a decentralized network or distributed system protocol, right? And so you kind of run into the same inefficiencies that like Napster or like Pirate Bay had when they had peer-to-peer file sharing. But instead of, you know, people being used to just like having to download the file and then play it, people want to stream it on demand. And you can imagine how inefficient and slow that could be. And when it is inefficient and slow, your user experience is like really bad. And who are you competing with? People like Spotify and Apple Music, whatever, that have been around for 16 years that have created this incredible music playback experience, right? And so this is basically why I'm pretty bearish on music streaming protocols, just because like these plethora of like uphill battles that you have to solve are probably not worth it, considering your idea is basically just mirroring what already exists in the world, but basically doing it the Web3 way, right? I believe that like in this industry, like the projects that are going to win are projects that are doing something that's actually different, that's weird, that hasn't existed before, right? And kind of leveraging the philosophies the space was built on, right? Cool. So all these other projects that you see on here are mostly not really like software projects, I would say, but more so projects where there's like people contributing to Web3. And so you can see here on the left, we have artists. These are some of the biggest Web3 artists that have done really cool things in the space that are different, and that are just like notable to note here. Also, funny enough, Koopa Troopa happens to be an owner of the rights of like all these artists that are here on his landscape little article. So that's also something to keep in mind. There is this research organization called Water and Music, which basically is a token gated organization where, or magazine basically, where you get to keep up with like the latest and newest in Web3 music. I guess NFT now does the same thing. Never heard of them. There are fan clubs. Actually, one of these was started in the Berkeley Blockchain Accelerator, and their name is Rally. And basically what these projects try to do is they try to have these like token gated experiences, both physical, and digital, right? Depending on the project. And what that basically means is like, if you own this like NFT, if you own this token, you get this like special access to this like digital place, or you get the special access to like this physical space, like a concert or something. Cool. The next thing is like these avatar projects, and actually one of the mentors for music was one of the co-founders of Fluff World, and Fluff so what Fluff really is kind of this like ecosystem of bunnies. And like basically it's like this world where you collect these like bunnies, and all bunnies can like make music together. And if you own one of the bunnies and you make music, and you also own an IP, it's like this whole thing, right? But yeah, this is just a really good example of imagining a digital experience and basically a piece of art that was like solely built from first principles on like by leveraging NFTs, right? Cool. Yeah, then there's generative projects that are trying to generate music with like AI or some algorithm, which is cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then the important thing another important project that basically isn't really a software project are these collectives. There's a lot of these decentralized asset organizations that basically group people together that have some amount of like money, and they allow them to invest in like collect NFTs as a collective, like collect tokens as a collective, basically buy things off all these other projects that we talked about. So some of them include like Good Karma Records, Beats DAO, Friends with Benefits, Noise DAO, that type of thing. So what is a DAO? Like, why do we see this word all the time? Well, basically, a DAO is a decentralized asset organization. But what that really means is it's basically just a multi-sig. And I should haven't explained what multi-sig is. So a multi-signature wallet is a let's just get a diagram up. Cool. So yeah, cool. Yeah, a multi-sig wallet is a wallet where you can have like multiple like accounts that have to approve a transaction like going through. So if me, Nate, and David decided to start a multi-sig, and it's what we call a 2 of 3 multi-sig, what that means is if I went and wanted to buy this like $1 million like NFT or whatever, and tried to sign that transaction, I can't. What I have to do is convince Nate or David to also sign a transaction with me, as all of us basically own this like joint bank account or like joint wallet where we have to make decisions based like on top of it. And so really what a DAO is it's just a really big multi-sig wallet, because what really has to happen in a DAO is everyone who's involved, everyone who's put their tokens in, like this list of like wallet addresses or accounts, basically get, for like every decision the DAO makes, they get to vote on that decision. And by some voting principle, whether it's super majority or majority or whatever the agreed on thing is, like once you get that up to a certain amount of points, a certain amount of votes, then the DAO will actually be able to make the decision. And these votes aren't just like, oh, like I vote, right? On like a website or like centralized thing. These votes are all happening on chain through tokens. So you're basically saying, hey, I own 1 million Nate DAO tokens. And so basically out of the 10 million Nate DAO tokens, I own 10% of them. And if the voting power algorithm was 1-to-1, you would have 10% of voting power. So that's basically how DAOs work. What people have done in the music NFTs space or music Web3 space is they've created these record labels that are solely focused on collecting music NFTs. And it's just basically collectors of people that are willing to contribute some amount of money, and in return get this voting power to curate, to collect music NFTs and kind of curate this type of thing. So amazing. I think that's everything. Let's just see something real here. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So that concludes our lecture today, which actually is perfect timing, because we wanted to leave an hour for a demo of us minting an NFT as well as a Q&A. So yeah, David, did you send me that MP3 file yesterday? And
No, I yesterday I emailed you guys a site where you can get royalty-free MP3s.
oh, cool. Let me just, what's the site called?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
If
I can
do you want me to here? Let me just send you an MP3 here in the chat. Well, I don't know if it'll accept it. Oh no, we're not using.
Probably
We're not
not.
using the chat. No.
Yeah.
Let me put it, I'll send it to Nate right now, and then maybe I can ask you some questions while he
No worries.
deals with
I actually just got it pulled up. I just didn't want to flash my email. Here we go. Cool. Free Music Collective. It looks like it's called.
Yeah, this is just a place. It's a completely democratic, open website where people want you to use their music. So everything comes with a download link. Sometimes they ask you just out of politeness to say, you know, this is my work, and they want attribution. But the idea is that these people are looking for public exposure. They're not looking for money.
Yeah.
So you can choose, you know, just choose a genre, choose an artist. These are all completely unknown performers.
I mean, all right. Well, let's just
Anything.
do Dance Power.
Actually, Nate, before I forget, it seems like we haven't sent out the attendance link yet.
Well, I was just gonna send the attendance for yesterday, just because that way you can track everyone. But everyone else has been reaching out who wasn't able to fill out the form yesterday. So we're all good for attendance. That was just to track everyone who's been coming to lectures, because we've had some drop off.
Oh, of course, yeah, that's inevitable, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
every day you lose somebody. Yeah, that's just
So
human
we're all
nature.
good with the project group, so we don't need attendance for today.
Okay. When would you like me to ask some questions now, or should we do it at the after this demonstration?
After the demo.
You got it.
Cool. All right. So basically, we're gonna mint an NFT on one of my favorite NFT market protocols. And the reason it's one of my favorites because of hyperstructure, and you know, it follows the philosophy of space. So basically, what you would do is you would go to Zora.co, click this little create button at the top. I need to go ahead and actually log in. I wish we could do this on a test network, but it would be so hard to find something to do it on. Actually, we probably could. So we'll try that. I just don't I don't want to mint some NFT on my wallet. All right. So basically you go in, you connect your wallet, which we talked about how you'd make that yesterday. And then you're gonna want to create a drop. Cool. So the first thing they ask you is to upload some media. And so I just downloaded this MP3, which it's for some reason not accepting. Let's try to figure out why. What's going on here? Oh, so you need to follow a certain folder structure. Okay. Let's see what this looks like.
And so Mo, as a heads up too, we only see we don't see any other screen.
Oh, no way. Okay. Let me go ahead and just like reshare a screen real quick then. Where's my Zoom controls? There it is. Cool. All right, fire. So yeah, basically what they're saying is you need to follow like a folder structure for this. They want you to have a folder with thumbnails and a folder with your media. And so then what is this? They also want you to have a CSV. Damn, bro, they're really really up in their game here, making do a lot of stuff. Okay. Okay, CSV is optional. Perfect. That's good. All right, so let's just go ahead and do that. So basically, I'm gonna use, instead of creating a new folder, I'm just gonna use this one that they gave us. We'll just rename it to UCLA Music Web3. Okay. In this, we can drop our media. So it's gonna be this guy. And we can delete their media. Cool. And then as for thumbnails, let's just see if that's actually required. Okay, so I don't know if it's required, but the thumbnail is basically the album art cover. So let's just be creative and look for one real quick. Let's go to like let's go here. They usually have some cool pictures. Let's just do this one. It looks ominous. All right. Fire. So let's go.
Mo, did you share your desktop or just the? Because right now we only see the screen that has the. Where is that? Just a bunch of different documents. Is this-
Yeah. Wait, I shared my entire desktop.
Okay, we just see this same screen that has the like the ALA presentation, a few antenna projects.
Wait.
This is just your Figma.
Are you seeing my Figma?
Yeah.
Wait, that's so weird. Okay. Sorry. Do you see it now?
There you go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Can we take a
Wow.
few steps back? Just yeah, great.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. It's just because I'm just shared the wrong monitor. But here we go. So, damn. So let me just re-explain this. So they have this like folder structure they want you to follow. One of the folders will contain the media you want to upload. Shit, this is gonna start playing soon. And the other folder will contain the thumbnails, and specifically, obviously for like music, your thumbnail for your song is basically your album art. So all I did was I just went and grabbed an album art, and we're gonna put that here in thumbnails. Cool. And then I'm gonna go ahead. We don't need a CSV. We probably don't need this. Cool. So once you have your media organized, you can go ahead and upload it. Cool. So it has one audio file and one image. We're going to go ahead and just click continue. It gives us a little bit of a preview. Cool. We're going to click continue. And then we're going to name the collection. So cool. So it's going to automatically give us a symbol ticker, which is just required as part of a standard. You don't really need to use it though. A collection description, a cool. And then you can set your price. We'll just put it at 0 for now. You can also have a start and end time for your like listing, which will skip. A mint limit per address, which just means like if you were dropping like let's say 20 and you wanted people to like basically mint them or put them on chain instead of you paying for that mint, you can set like a limit to that. Set your royalty percentage. This is what we were talking about. And then cool. Apparently, I think OpenSea has a new standard or something like that, where if you enable it, it will disable your NFT from being able to be sold on marketplaces that don't support a royalty standard, which is really good. And then payout address, that's just basically my wallet address. So let's click upload. Now you've uploaded your metadata. To finalize your collection, you need to deploy your collection contract on chain. And this collection specifically only has a supply of 1 token. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. Oh, I just realized I'm using Rainbow Wallet. It's a mobile wallet to connect my thing. So as you see here, I basically got a transaction on my mobile wallet that's asked me to confirm finalizing this. Except the gas fee is actually $46 right now to do this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cancel it. But yeah, pretty much. Unless this isn't a class budget, then I'm probably not gonna be able to mint it on Ethereum, but we can try a test chain.
So the reason why test chains are so helpful is that like on a test network, you can run and simulate your entire environment. And so you can essentially like practice uploading something or like minting something on chain, but a lot of the costs are removed as well. So it's much cheaper or at times free to do so because it doesn't require gas fees or other fees that come with making a change on chain.
Okay.
Could you just explain to these guys why sometimes the cost varies?
Oh, the cost of gas fees is high.
Yes.
The cost of gas fees could be high for several different reasons. The main two that we're probably going to be concerned with are your file size. So basically all the data you're trying to put on chain, which includes like how long your link is, how much of your artist, album art name, all that type of stuff you actually want to put on chain. And then the other reason could be due to network demand. So basically, if a lot of people are using the network at once, you can run into network congestion. And the way we try to like balance that and mitigate that is by having higher gas fees to basically tell people, hey, well, in terms of an incentive model, it's like, hey, don't mint right now, so less people mint. But at the same time, because there's so much demand on the supply side of the people who actually get to mine blocks or approved blocks, they get paid more
Yes.
at that time.
So in your experience, what would you think? Sorry, yeah, somebody has the microphone open. In your experience, what would you say the average, if somebody is uploading a song, so a file of that size, what might the average cost be to create an NFT? What would you expect it to be?
Yeah, this is pretty accurate. So from what I've seen from friends that have helped mint NFTs, it costed us anywhere from $70 to $140 in gas fees to like mint an NFT. And like this number, this is kind of like the average. Sometimes it's like lower, and sometimes it's obviously higher.
And if somebody uses Solana or a different blockchain, obviously the price can be a lot lower, right?
Yeah.
And
So
why is that?
so the reason is like different blockchains work different blockchains work differently. Yeah, obviously. Like basically Solana is like has a different consensus mechanism and has different muted. Oh, okay. Has different rules for their network. And so pretty much for Solana network, it's like a lot cheaper to make transactions and do these things because their consensus mechanism allows for that. So like the way people are mining and are incentivized to mine blocks and keep the network up. However, it is important to note that when networks like Solana experiment and try to make things more efficient, they run into the risk of these things not working. And so for Solana, their network has been down 11 times, with the 11th time being pretty recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your network is constantly going down, that's very concerning because the entire like ethos or like the entire point of even making a blockchain network has a lot to do with permanency and security, right? And it's like if your network is going down constantly, then it's like how do we know and ensure that like all this transaction data or like all this on-chain data is actually going to exist there forever.
So I believe also the three of the variables are overall like network congestion, so how many users you have at a time, and then you have the cost for validators that that need to uphold network, and so they of course receive fees. And then you also have the like just like number of validators and like how much of a need there is for like network verification. So how many transactions are going through, which kind of goes hand in hand with the number of users and your overall network traffic, but there's a little more nuance to that. And then those all influence the cost of gas fees.
Because in actual fact, I mean, you can create sometimes an NFT for just pennies, right? But it may be on a blockchain that is not particularly reliable.
Correct. Yeah.
Exactly. So we had our governance meeting where a blockchain Berkeley, we vote on, and we like just like how I was talking about EIPs, like Ethereum Improvement Protocols. We talk about governance and ways that we can make improvements to other networks as well. And we saw that there was one wallet address that voted for the equivalent of $1, but spent $8 in gas fees to send that vote through. So it was funny how they could have, multiplied their position about 8 times and actually acquired 8 times as many governance tokens or 8 times the amount of voting power, but instead had to spend all that money on gas fees because they're so high. And so that was quite a bizarre scenario.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you open some questions now, maybe?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to mint this NFT on a testnet right now
Okay.
on Gorley ETH, which okay, so it seems to be working. So I'm basically gonna go ahead and do that. Confirm the transaction, and there should be a second transaction. Oh, gotta wait, just waiting for that to be deployed as well.
While we're waiting, Nate, we have a question for you. So what was your logic for attendance? Why are you not taking attendance today?
Oh, it was mainly because the way we're doing, one, it's that the attendance was mainly for creating the groups for the projects. And because there was a large drop off from the first and second lecture, I just
Right.
figured it would make the most sense to wait a lecture and see everyone who returned, and then have everyone who was at that second lecture who was interested in receiving the certificate sign up for like fill out the form that I sent out last time. And for that, but now we have the project groups pretty much finalized with a and so it's mostly to form project groups because that's how
I see. Okay. All right.
Wow, this user experience of minting on Zora is quite
And then Mo, maybe another idea too. Actually, maybe I'll show that in a second, but even just showing how you can verify an NFT or an on-chain asset using Etherscan, that might be helpful to talk through.
cool. Yeah, so right now I'm going to this thing called Etherscan, which is a data dashboard that shows like everything that's happening on chain. And I'm gonna search my wallet address just to see if that transaction went through that we just did. And it looks like it didn't, because for my wallet address on Gorley ETH, the last transaction was 5 days and 5 hours ago. So that means our transaction didn't go through. So let's just we should try it again. Okay, upload my media. Right. So after I click create, I feel like it's because, hold on. Okay, perfect.
Because ironically, what we're trying to do is show how easy it is to make an NFT.
Yeah, it's supposed
I
to
mean,
be.
even if you use something like OpenSea or Nifty Gateway, I mean, is that going to just be infinitely easier?
No, I mean you would run into a very similar problems. Okay, so cool. So basically I get this transaction again. We go ahead confirm. Oh. Once I confirm, let's see if we can actually get this. I also want to see what's going on here.
Or maybe we can even verify something that's already on chain. I mean, do you have anything that you've minted before that could be that you could show from your address?
Yeah. We actually just did it. I have something from a hackathon, so let's see. It's not the right account. Yeah, so if this doesn't go through, basically we can just imagine that it did.
Well, why is it not going through? I mean, I'm sure people would have that question. What's the problem here that's typical?
Um, typically it could be something on Zora's end, like on basically their front end or website. Oh, no way.
No, it worked.
Perfect. So it just looked like we were being impatient. We just need to- so nice. So went through. We can customize the theme and website that our collection is going to be on. So this is cool. And we made like a free minting price. So you can go ahead and like basically share this link for people to mint it. Honestly, that's good. Not even gonna click mint. Fire. So yeah, basically the point is I want to go to a gallery. So this specific gallery, I think, is just for our collection. Let's see if we can get it to show up on the Gore on the Zora testnet. Can I just? I don't want to create a collection. I just want to. Yeah.
So
So
Ethan, go on, go on.
I was just gonna say, basically, the problem here is that on Zora's end, there's like an issue where we're trying to index for this very recent transaction to happen on chain, but they're unable to like basically keep their data updated. So I guess they might be working on that. We're gonna go ahead. I want to check on this testnet again if this transaction actually exists.
So Etherscan, like you were saying, I mean, it may look like a complicated interface to a lot of people, but basically it's just a constantly updated record of all transactions everywhere, right? And it's a place where you can check to make sure that your own work has actually been published successfully.
Correct. Yeah. The weird thing is this transaction is not, it's not posted on Etherscan right now. So basically we're just running to a bunch of issues on Zora. Specifically, I don't think that if you use mainnet right now, like Ethereum mainnet, you would be running into some of these problems. I might be wrong, but I think sometimes these problems exist on a testnet that are a little bit finicky like this. So yeah, but that's basically the process of minting an NFT. Is you're uploading a media, putting in some metadata, and then clicking mint, basically paying for the gas fees to put it on chain, signing that transaction, and then having it be on chain.
So the question is, initially, one of the first questions I have for you relates specifically to this. So initially, the idea was we're going to make an NFT. The original cost was very expensive. It was $46, which you didn't want to pay, but then you turned to the test net or the test environment. So the question is, how did you, without paying $46, manage to make the NFT, and did it cost you anything at all?
Yeah, so the way I did it was I didn't actually make the NFT on Ethereum, but I made it on a different network called Goerli, which is an Ethereum fork, but solely made for testing. So none of the Ethereum on there actually costs money, but it's like Ethereum that you can get on like a faucet. So
So somebody would logically ask, okay, so you've made the NFT, but how is that different to the NFT you would have paid $46 for?
yeah. So basically the reason it's different is that for like Goerli ETH, you have these things called faucets, and faucets are websites where you can go in and you can say like put in your wallet address, and you can say, okay, give me Goerli ETH. And what that means is like you're basically getting that Goerli ETH for free, which means that digital token is not worth like any amount of money. And also the Goerli network is a test network that just has like a set of nodes that's keeping it up for the sake of like development, right?
Right, so it's not something you can sell.
Right, yeah. So
and the next question is, why did you not make the NFT for free on Polygon?
even on Polygon, the NFT wouldn't be free to make. I believe it would be like so cheap that basically you could consider it free. I didn't make it on Polygon because I didn't want to. I guess there's like no reason. Well, okay, Polygon is a layer 2 solution built on top of Ethereum. Basically, in terms of like totally not financial advice or anything, but in terms of like Polygon as an entity, more than half of Polygon is owned and controlled by like investors and founders. And so what that creates is like this unfair power dynamic in the chain where it's like, you know, let's say if anyone puts up like improvement proposals or anything like that, Nate with Polygon hat, it basically just means that like it's you know, a little bit more likely to be decided upon by very few parties, and it's like 2 or 3 parties. And so although it's cheaper and it's a layer 2 solution, that's kind of why I don't really like recommend using it. But obviously I say that with a grain of salt because all of these projects are incredibly early. Polygon specifically is an incredibly successful project that has raised $500 million from notable investors like Sequoia Capital. And I believe they're probably working to solve this as they're working with like a ZK blockchain solution. So yeah, I mean, that's why I say it with a grain of salt, but there's no reason for this demo why I didn't mint on Polygon. I just like basically didn't think about minting on Polygon.
I mean, it's what I use, and it's obviously much cheaper. But you're saying that from a almost a democratic point of view, it's a less desirable solution.
Yeah, that's a nicer way of saying it.
Okay, so can I ask? Do we have time for some questions now?
Yeah, let's just open this up for Q&A.
Great. Um, before I forget, that PDF of the legal agreement you had from Royal.
Yeah.
If you could send me that, that'd be great, because that link is dead at the moment. It's broken. But if you've downloaded that PDF, I can share it with people. Because
Got
we have some lawyers in the group, and I'm sure they'd love to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see if I still have it open. I actually didn't download it, but I can.
Oh, that's funny, because I was just getting a 404, just a broken link.
Yeah, so this is the problem with hosting your media on like centralized websites. Like if this does go down or there's like a network surge, then you just straight have no access to it. So that's why I recommend storing any of your media on a decentralized storage solution like IPFS.
Yeah, that's a nice example. You can open it, I can't. But if the PDF was distributed, then it would be a much more robust system of access.
Yeah.
Okay, so here are some questions. You showed us a couple of platforms that need an invitation, right?
Yeah.
What are the odds of actually getting that invitation?
I would say chances are pretty good. Obviously, for example, Catalog is still a fairly small company. And so they can only support so many artists at once, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, pretty much I would say like if you apply to Catalog, like it could be pretty likely that you get it. They right now are experimenting with having more people involved in curation from the space. So basically having more people to do the work of vetting for good music, which is incredibly subjective, right? So yeah, I think if you apply to Catalog, you could be receiving an answer within like a month and a half to 2 months.
You can often tell, right? If you look at, I mean, no pun intended, but if you look at the catalog of Catalog, you get a sense of the kind of music they are likely to publish.
Yeah, which it's really funny you say that, because like the whole point of the space is to be like open and permissionless, right? And
Mhm.
so it's kind of a contradiction. But also I do want to say that like these curation teams often have the goal of being as like diverse as possible. So basically they don't want to appeal to like a certain type of music that sounds a certain way, but rather just like try to get like a very diverse catalog of music. Thing is, I would say if you wanted to increase your likelihood of getting approved, the things you can do are be involved in that company's or project's community, which basically means tweet at them, go to their Discord, attend like some of their events. And if you get to know someone on the team, both online or in person, they will usually be able to give you a side door into like being on the platform. And
Great.
that's how it works right now. But hopefully in the future, when we've developed better tooling in the space, we can have like the technology and infrastructure required to support like a way bigger amount of media at once.
Great. Have you noticed any political issues? Have you noticed any of the music sites saying that they don't want Russian applications at the moment? Just
Not that I
because
know
of the
of.
war. Okay, so you haven't seen that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. Within the music NFT sites, how are they normally structured? How do you find your way around? Is it by genre?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked the question. This is my problem with music NFT sites right now. It's pretty much like the experience of filtering through music, and I'll just display this. So is like pretty bad, right? Like if I wanted to filter by genre, I can't. I can only filter A through Z, Z through A, latest dropped and earliest dropped on Catalog, right?
And how many tracks do you think there might be there? How many artists, perhaps?
We can actually, I'll tell you the exact number.
Oh, just go to the last page.
So there's this other website called Dune Analytics where anybody could like write code to analyze what's happening on chain.
Mhm.
So we can see here, this is catalogs analytics page.
Oh, that's interesting.
They have exactly 1,980 records minted.
So it'd be like walking into an old physical record store and someone says, "Hi, I sell 2,000 records, but I have there's no system. I'm not going to tell you where anything is. I'm not going to help you. You just have to find your own way."
Imagine, yeah, imagine like this is basically what it is. You own this store and you have all these empty shelves, and you start like all the way at the back with your first record, and every new record you just append it.
Right.
And so like people just have to go through the shelves and they just have to see, like that's kind of what it's like right now. But there is, let's see, I actually haven't been on sound.xyz for a while, so let's see if they have genres now. See what they're doing. Okay. I don't think they do.
No, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
They'll obviously they'll reach a point where they have to have filters, but yeah, I don't see them much at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have an example of a music DAO?
A music DAO.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, let me pick one. Let me pick one off this chart. Let's do I feel like either Beats DAO or Song Camp could be interesting. Or even Good Karma Records. Okay, so it's like I have a few examples. All right, so let's go to this Good Karma Records DAO. So you can see here, so there's this other platform called mirror.xyz where you can write an article and create basically a fundraising thing. It's like Kickstarter but like decentralized on blockchain that uses crypto.
Mhm.
So what they did was they to bootstrap their token, they did a fundraising for Karma tokens. They wrote what they're all about, empowering Web3 artist communities, blah, like all this type of stuff. And then, you know, just a bunch of information you would know before like buying into something. And then they got people to back them, right? And you can see Koopa Troopa here.
Yep.
He's a very big investor in Web3. And then, yeah, and then basically what they do is I'll just go to their page. So if you have a membership NFT, what you can do is participate in, just like me and you could go right now on a music NFT marketplace, right? And like go through and then let's see, go through and then buy a record. Basically the DAO what you could do is like copy the link to this record, go to your like DAO homepage, which I don't have access to because I'm not part of this one, and then just like paste the link and be like, hey guys, think this is a really cool NFT to invest in. Here's why. Who's down? And then you can kind of get a vote from like everyone who's involved, every member in the DAO, to see if you guys want to add that to your collection or not. So it's basically a very democratic record label.
If somebody uses, let's say they get an invitation to catalog, and they publish their music with the same project, what percentage do those platforms typically take?
Oh, so actually, good enough. Sound.xyz and catalog and a lot of places don't take a fee at all right now. So they don't take a cut at all. But what I've seen is platforms that do take a cut take anywhere, like OpenSea takes 2.5%. And most platforms will take anywhere from 2.5% to 7.5%. Which,
Why those? Sorry,
which
go on.
yeah, which is incredible compared to like what artists and creators are used to, which is the complete opposite, where they get to keep the minority anywhere from like 5 to 15%. And you know, whatever platform they're on, or like whoever is supporting them gets to keep the majority, right? It's a total like flip on the business model.
So you said the percentage range is approximately 2.5 to 7.5%.
Yeah.
And what exactly are those sites offering you? Do they, because obviously you're contributing to their library, do they advertise it for you, do you think?
Some of them do, so like some marketplaces or projects will post on their Twitter about like every new NFT that's posted.
Mhm.
Obviously, because these places are like growing, they're not gonna be able to post everybody. So what are they offering you? So this is actually a great question. A lot of these projects, their main value proposition is curation, right? It's basically, hey, we're gonna help you find the best music NFTs, and they're gonna be on our site. And so what you can really narrow down like these companies to is, I think my current sort of opinion is, in the current state that they exist today, these companies really aren't building any interesting technology. They're rather just basically NFT collections. So you can see here, Catalog Records is an NFT collection. And if I
Mhm.
just go on the Catalog Records page on OpenSea, I can see every NFT that was minted on Catalog. And not just that, I have more filter options than Catalog has themselves like on their website. And this is true for like most music NFT websites. As we saw, you can't even filter by genre on these websites yet, right? So obviously you can't filter by genre on OpenSea either. But my point is, like this website that we're on right now, OpenSea.com/catalog records, does the same thing, if not more, as like the Catalog Records website. And so what this really means is, you're asked what the platform is offering you if they're taking, which Catalog doesn't take any fee. But if they were to, what they're offering you is just distribution, right? It's like, hey, people value my opinion on my music taste. I create basically this playlist of songs, right? And for you to get on that playlist, pay me 2.5% of your stuff. That would be kind of like the deal that you're making.
Because you can imagine a situation where, let's say, well, you just mentioned Catalog has almost 2,000 NFTs, which is tiny, right? Tiny even compared to a traditional vinyl record store. But what if they had 20,000, not 2,000, but 20,000? Do you see there's a future market in these NFT marketplaces becoming streaming platforms, like niche streaming platforms? So they're not really collecting the NFTs, but the NFTs are a way of automatically paying people for every play.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thought experiment. I would say it's pretty hard to say, as like the space is pretty sporadic in terms of like experimentation. And that is like an obvious fact of any new like emerging industry or emerging like technology. I think in terms of utilizing NFTs to facilitate these microtransactions per stream, it's a very something that's very hard. And I don't think that like the best way to do it from a technical standpoint is through a non-fungible token. So from that standpoint, no. I think in terms of like streaming music, obviously you're gonna have to have a way to view the media. So to like view media before you buy it. So technically that's streaming. Streaming in the way it exists today, which is like paying per stream, I don't think like basically, like I said, from technical standpoint, it's very, very hard to facilitate. And that's what Audius is really trying to do. In terms of these platforms being microchasms for streaming music, could be a possibility. Right now, though, it's like really hard to see that, because basically you would need to like reach some sort of feature parity with a Spotify or an Apple Music to really be taken seriously as a music player, right? And so like if you don't have the feature of Spotify is literally on every device. It's on your TV, it's on your phone, it's on your computer, it's on in your car now, it's on your watch. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like very hard to build for that when your core focus is like collecting, making and facilitating the collection of collectibles.
Right. I mean, so that's a really interesting question. So the one other thing that I wanted to ask was, well, first of all, let me begin with this. Do you see any project that is dedicated to more experimental music?
To more experimental music?
Yeah, that was a question from the audience. Yeah.
A project that's for more experimental music. Well, I think these. What do you guys mean by more experimental music? So just like not pop music or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Where the main purpose is not commercial development, but let's say artistic experimentation.
Yeah, sure. I think these platforms kind of already are like that. Let's see. So like I said, I'm talking about Cala because I know them pretty well because I literally work there. So like I think so one of my coworkers is an artist and he has some stuff on Catalog. And yeah, his artist name is Computer Data. And so his stuff is like pretty experimental, I'd say.
So what you're saying is there aren't really platforms. You just have to look for sub communities within these projects that might be the beginning of something.
Right. And I would encourage you guys to also start your own projects, right? For example, and this is kind of like where the space is kind of moving. So Sound.xyz has now a protocol. So basically this sound protocol is how I guess like the best way of explaining it is when you go on OpenSea right now, right? You can say put in sound.xyz, and then under that you now have like all these like different collections, right? So what sound.xyz protocol is literally this. Like this is the visualization of it. It's like it makes it easier for you to like create your own collection. So if I was Lack Honey, right here, so this guy, I can basically go on Sound right now and it's open and I can mint my own NFTs and they would be under my own artist page. See that? He has all his songs under this one collection on OpenSea. And that's easy to do with Sound Protocol and without. Like you could do it on OpenSea as well, just starting your own collection and the collection name is your artist name, right? And under that, you only mint songs that belong to that artist personality you're trying to build. So yeah.
So a related question from the audience is what's the ownership that these organizations have over your work?
They don't have any ownership over your work.
So what you do is
the only thing you're signing off is free streaming. It's like, hey, when I put my song on there, like it's basically you're good to stream it for free.
Yeah. What about I mean, you mentioned the fact that things like Spotify are everywhere. What about the possibility that if you are working in a smaller genre, no one's going to find you on Spotify anyway, right? It's like being in the middle of a bottomless ocean. Is it perhaps better to build a community, like a little niche streaming project that would be dedicated to one particular style?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, 100%. So I manage my my friend who like does music too, and I feel like I brought him up in this class before too, but his artist name is Shaq Stizzy. All right, and basically on Spotify he doesn't have many listeners. He has 487 monthly listeners, right? And like he has a few songs. He literally has 3 songs. So pretty much like, and I would and this is what I encourage like all artists who are curious about Web3 that are also just getting started in the music space. It's like, dude, like you as an artist, if you have 500 monthly listeners, have more like listeners than like artists on catalog right now. Like just to put it into perspective, like there's 536 artists on catalog. There is 8 million plus artists on Spotify. Like from a pure standpoint, like of capturing people's attention, it's like a lot easier for you to basically apply to this website or whatever with your good music, like get on, and then basically be able from the from the 429 collectors that exist, be able to stand out, right? Than it is on Spotify.
Right,
So,
because nobody will find you on Spotify anyway.
yeah, so I would say like this is a really cool experiment to run. Basically, I would in a permissionless fashion, your best option right now is basically minting a song using the sound.xyz protocol. So let's just like let's see something here. Do we have a mint page for a protocol? Honestly, I really don't know.
We don't have to squeeze that into today.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But yeah. I would say that that's your best option.
I mean, it's pretty similar to Bandcamp. I don't know if you've had any experience of that, but
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of these projects are like very similar to projects that already exist as well. Just the only difference is like basically leveraging blockchain technology to have to basically be able to facilitate the ownership of digital items, whereas these platforms before, you're not really owning, you don't have any ownership of like any item, right? It's just more of like a donation form.
I think that's the end of my questions. If you wanted to wrap things up, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool. That's perfect timing. I'm really glad the lecture today was like right on time and everything. So basically, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed kind of taking a journey through like all these different Web3 projects and kind of learning about why people will collect music NFTs, what a music NFT even is, which is like still kind of being defined right now. And most importantly, like I encourage everyone who's curious about getting into this space for like very real reasons of, hey, this seems like a very nice platform to like monetize my work. I would say like definitely encourage you to do that. Start experimenting with Zora, like just dive into it, go on the create forum and try to mint an NFT basically on a testnet or something. And yeah, there's a ton of great resources out there online. I mean, Zora and OpenSea are pretty gigantic companies at this point, and they have a insane amount of funds to dedicate to basically educating users and making the user experience a lot easier to for you guys to actually experiment with. And so it's like the other thing I encourage you guys to do is a lot of these new projects out there are very accessible to you in terms of being able to get in touch with like people that are the developers, the founders, whatever. You can get in touch with any of these people surprisingly. Like it seems like, oh, I would never get to like talk to like Daniel Ek from Spotify, right? But for you, it's a lot more realistic, like to be able to talk to like the founder of Catalog, the founder of Sound, than you think. And so the best way to do it is through Twitter, right? Through the Discord communities that these people have. Just because like a lot of these platforms and projects, their main struggle right now is collecting user feedback, figuring out what users really want and need, and especially because they're built to support artists, what you as an artist want or need. And so getting in touch with them could be a great way to connect, as well as expedite the process of getting you approved to some of these like gated curated platforms. And yeah, so if you guys
Thank
have
you
any
very much.
questions, come with them to next lecture. And yeah, thank you so much for your attention and listening.
Great. Have a good weekend. Yeah, one of our guest speakers after the weekend is actually an investor, so we can ask him the questions about which of these projects seem financially promising as well.
And then one last quick announcement as well. So the project groups are finalized. So please take a look at that document. It's called project groups. I can resend it in the Telegram group. And then David, would you mind pinning that as well?
No, yes, resend the link and I'll pin it.
That sounds great.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Perfect.
Take care,
too.
everyone.
Bye.